So I'm Parker McKenna from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Mosaic. We're a healthcare company based in Omaha. So this is a story about how I first became really clear to me that HR is a strategic partner in the business, and how I learned how that actually looks at work. So I was a new HR leader and had a team of direct reports that I worked with. And we were working with an organization that was in the process of redesigning its strategic plan. And we were building a 5-year strategic roadmap that would take us to a better version of ourselves when we got to the end of it. That was the goal. So the CEO and his direct reports and some members of our board had worked to build a draft of that plan. And the CEO had emailed it out to a number of other leaders throughout the organization to ask for thoughts and input and that kind of thing. So I'm in my office, I get this email, I'm in the middle of a number of other things, I see it quickly, don't take a lot of time to look at it in that moment, but I did forward it to my direct reports and asked for their input so that I could include that with my notes as well. So a couple of hours later, one of my team members comes in the office and she's fired up and she says, "You noticed that HR is really not in that strategic plan at all. There aren't any people measures, there aren't any talent measures, there's no connection between the value that HR provides and the business outcomes that we're targeting." And I said, I hadn't really noticed that, but if that's true, that's not good. And so I got fired up kind of with her. I took a look at the plan and we agreed, for sure HR needs to have a bigger voice in this strategic plan. So the next day, CEO's back in the office and I sort of stormed the office, jumping up and down figuratively and demanding that HR really needed a stronger voice in this plan. And the CEO kind of sat back in his chair and said, HR has to be here because we have to be compliant. We got to pay people well, pay people correctly, but I'm not really seeing the connection between what HR does and how we're going to be better in terms of our product or what we actually do in the market. So I thought about it for a minute. I tried to rebut his thoughts in his office, but I was thinking on the fly and not doing a great job of that. And he said, if we have to do it because our people are going to be upset if we don't, then we will, if we have to do it. And I said, no, I don't think you have to do that. Let me come back to you. So I left his office and I realized this is going to take more work than what I thought it would. So we need to kind of regroup and come back together with that. So I looked at my calendar when I got back to my office and I saw that I had a meeting about 2 weeks down the road with the CEO and the executive team because we were also redesigning our learning and development strategy and we were pitching this idea to them. And I thought, I think we can use that venue to accomplish a couple of purposes. One, on our learning and development strategy, but also we might be able to build a better business case for how HR adds value to the organization. So I worked with the team, we put together our thoughts and prepared for that meeting down the road. And 2 weeks came and went. I found myself in the executive conference room with the CEO and his executive team. And I began the meeting by framing how HR adds value to the organization. So I said, we have about a $300 million labor budget, which accounts for about 70% of our total operating budget. And if we can reduce turnover by just 1%, we can save about $1 million a year and add about 0.5 point to our operating ratio. CEO eyes got wide, kind of sat back in his chair again. I could tell I'd caught him off guard. Executive team members are kind of shooting glances to each other. They weren't used to HR translating what we do into operational outcomes. CEO said, "That's a really powerful metric. Do you have more along those lines?" And I said, "Well, HR's got a scorecard full of metrics like that we can come back to you with." And he said, "Those should really be in our strategic plan." And I said, "That's a great idea." So we left the meeting, felt really good about that. And a couple of weeks later, we had a revised draft of the strategic plan. There were people metrics in there and more tangible outcomes for HR were in the strategic plan. And so for me, the takeaway from that, the moral of that story was that, HR can pound its fists and jump up and down and demand a seat at the table. We can demand that we have a component of the strategy in the organization. And we might get it because, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But if we get it that way, we won't be getting it in the most valuable way for HR in the long run. And we won't be getting it in an organic and meaningful way. If we can actually demonstrate our results, actually demonstrate our value, and get the organization to come to us and say, we need you in order to be successful in the future. We need you in order to have a successful strategic plan. then that's where HR adds true strategic value and true strategic long-run benefit.